Hello Blockchain Nation, what up YouTube? Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. So very quickly, I just want to go over a concept in blockchain technology, which is called proof of work, also proof of stake, just to compare the difference. So really, what is proof of work? At a very low, I'll just give you a more of a higher level definition. So if you check out one of our videos I did before right here, this is me explaining Bitcoin. Bitcoin uses a proof of work consensus algorithm, and you can find the details in that video. So what really is proof of work and proof of stake? So they are consensus algorithms. Consensus just means agreement. So it's unlike centralized systems where all the transactions are in a central authority or in a particular a single place where you can really validate all the transactions. For instance, if this book is on my table, I know the book is on my table because it's right there in a location. Somebody takes this book and I borrow the person, and every time somebody borrows the book, they put it back on this table. It's easy to know that this is where we always check. We come to the table to check whether the book is actually there, which is the focus point. But imagine having a library whereby you have millions and millions of books, and the books don't sit in one location, but they are spread across multiple locations across the whole world. So how can you validate when, or how can every single library know when a book has been returned and a book has been taken out? Well, they have to have a way of coming into agreement, of knowing, of trusting that when a couple of libraries say, hey, this book has been returned, every other library can confirm and say that's the case. So that book being returned has to be broadcast to the entire library. And that's really a fascinating concept when it comes to decentralized networks like crypto networks. So the concept of consensus is very, very important. So there's so many cryptocurrencies out there, and they all use different consensus algorithms just for this reason. People are trying to find out what is the best way to come into consensus, to agreement of the state of the network, or what all the transactions on the network are. Hope that makes sense. I'll put a couple of videos below that you can watch to get more details about that. So at a very high level, there are some major consensus algorithms. There's so many out there, but the ones that are kind of popular are proof of work and proof of stake. So proof of work is a consensus algorithm that uses a concept called mining, whereby every single node on the network or miner has to solve a very complex math problem, and the first person to solve that problem gets to add their group of transactions onto the network, and they get rewarded for doing that. And once that happens, that transaction is broadcast to the entire network. So proof of work is what is used by Bitcoin. I'll just give a small definition below somewhere here that explains what by Wikipedia the definition of proof of work, and here it is right here. All right, so and as of this recording, proof of work is also used by Ethereum, although Ethereum is planning on changing what the consensus algorithm is. Let's talk about the pros and the cons. So one of the cons or the pros of the proof of work consensus algorithm is that it is secure. It is secure because of the concept of how it works in terms of how every single node has to be able to, or before a transaction is added onto the network, it has to, the validator or the miner has to be able to, or not added onto the network, but added onto the blockchain. The validator has to solve a very complex math problem, and everybody can confirm that that problem was solved. Anyway, so it's a very secure network. That's one of the advantages of proof of work. Another advantage of proof of work, which is very obvious, is the fact that it's decentralized. It's decentralized. Every single consensus algorithm is decentralized. So why say decentralized? But it's just to reinforce the fact that these networks, blockchain networks, like cryptocurrency networks like Bitcoin, Ethereum, or others, are decentralized, which in itself is a great thing. Anyway, the fourth advantage of proof of work is the fact that anyone can participate, which means you can buy a laptop, or you can buy your own computer, buy the specific mining equipment, set up, download some software, connect to the Bitcoin network, and begin to participate and begin to mine for Bitcoin. So anyone can participate, but what happens in the end, I'll talk about that when I talk about some of the disadvantages of proof of work. But anyone can participate if you choose to. Another advantage of proof of work, obviously, is a good business model because there's a great incentive to run a mining pool. Like I mentioned, doing the proof of work consensus algorithm, if you are able to validate transactions or add those transactions to the network, and you're the first node to be able to do that, you get rewarded with a fee. So it's a good incentive. Imagine running a mining pool and you're running this as a business and you're able to mine Bitcoin on a regular basis. It's a good business model because now the reward for buying Bitcoin is 6.25. So 6.25 times, depends on what the price of Bitcoin is right now. I'm having this conversation, is $10,000. So you get to you get 60,000 United States dollars each time you mine a Bitcoin, which is a good incentive. So those are the advantages of proof of work. Let's talk about some of the disadvantages. First is that it's slow. So that consensus of having so many computers on the network going to pull up all these transactions, solving a complex math problem, and adding that block to the chain is terribly slow. So unlike Visa, like MasterCard that can process thousands of transactions in a second, proof of work is a very, very slow consensus algorithm. So that's one of the disadvantages of proof of work. The second one is that it consumes a lot of electricity. As of this recording, the number of the amount of electricity that's generated in all these running all these mining rigs, in using this specialized what they're called as ASCI ASIC chips to run specialized hardware that runs on these mining rigs. It uses a lot of electricity. The work that is involved to solve this math problem and take this block and add it to the chain, it's a very, 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 it uses a lot of electricity. So watch this video once again. Let's highlight this, and it really explains in details how the proof of work concept works. Third is that it can become centralized. Now, which means that some mining pools may control the entire ecosystem. Now, I said that one of the advantages is that anyone can participate. You can participate. You can buy the software. You can download the software, and you can buy the specialized hardware. But the odds of you running that small laptop on and actually getting rewarded for Bitcoin is slim to none. It was something that was profitable in the beginning, but now because of specialized equipment, for the fact that the way you what's the word? The effective at mining for Bitcoin is if you have a processor that's very, very high hashing power and you have high hash rate. But now let's show you this. The most of the control is these mining pools. So these mining pools are just specialized hardware running somewhere. And these computers, these mining pools have like hundreds, and in some cases thousands of these ASICs running, and they have a very, very high hash rates, and so they pretty much control the entire ecosystem. So Bitcoin.com has 40.2% of the entire pool, while polling and all these ones, as you can see here, you can check out this URL and you can see that pretty much these are the guys that are pretty much running the show. These are the guys that have all the hash power, or most of the hash power, and they're able to mine Bitcoin faster than you and I can. So you can buy the equipment, you can try and mine. The rewards are, I don't know what the rewards would be. I did a video on this, I'll put a link below. But the odds of you beating these guys is slim to none. So that's one of the disadvantages of Bitcoin, of the proof of work consensus algorithm. I also saw this block chart as well. Check out this one too. That also shows the hash rate distribution amongst the largest mining pools. So that's one of the disadvantages of all. And lastly, there is no mechanism for punishing bad actors. If you decide to create a fake chain, or you decide to validate transactions that are not real, for some time you can fool the entire ecosystem and you can kind of create your own chain. But with time, the concept of proof of work consensus algorithm is that the miners always follow the longest chain. So you can try to deceive the network for so long, but you can't do it for such a long period of time. And even if you try to do that, eventually people will figure out, okay, this is a erroneous chain, and they will eventually follow the true chain. But even if you try to do that, not that you can succeed at doing that, there's really no punishment for even trying to deceive the network. So I guess that's one of the disadvantages of proof of work. And that brings me now to proof of stake. So proof of stake is a consensus algorithm by which a cryptocurrency blockchain network aims to achieve distributed consensus. The powerful how proof of stake works is you have to buy Ether and stake that Ether. So once you stake the Ethereum, once you've done that, the network randomly picks a computer or a node or a server on the network to be the block rewarder or be the block validator. And so there's no way you can participate without staking Ether. So wonderful thing about a couple of companies that use, or concepts, crypto platforms that use proof of stake are Tezos, Neo. Neo is kind of like, it looks like Ethereum. It uses a proof of stake like consensus algorithm. Dash is also another cryptocurrency that uses proof of stake, and Ethereum also is moving away from a proof of work consensus algorithm to a proof of stake consensus algorithm for Ethereum 2.0. Now I don't know whether that will have by the time you're watching this, it's possibly would have, but Ethereum is moving from proof of work to proof of stake. Advantages of proof of stake is that it's faster than proof of work. Second advantage, the ecological advantage. Now, unlike proof of work that consumes a lot of electricity due to mining, it doesn't work that way with proof of stake. So it has a better advantage in terms of it's not burning up so much electricity like proof of work is. The third is that the risk of centralization is reduced. Unlike, well, it's reduced to a particular, well, it's kind of reduced in comparison to the mining pools that proof of work allows in terms of hash rate. Having all these mining pools have most of the hash rate on the network, which can lead to some kind of centralization. But in comparison to this, you can argue and say the risk of centralization is less in proof of stake. Anyways, fourth is that there's no need for you to buy some powerful computer equipment. So unlike proof of work, whereby I have to go and buy some very, very expensive computer somewhere so that I can mine on the network, I don't have to do that with proof of stake, which is great. So it's cheaper for me to set up a machine that can also validate transactions as well. Disadvantage of proof of stake, one is that what I call the collateral monopoly. So it's hard for average investors to participate because the more Ether you stake, the higher the possibility of your node getting picked to be the one to be the block producer. So like I said, how it works is you stake Ether. Once you stake Ether, then an algorithm picks of all the nodes, of all the servers, all the computers that stake Ether, it picks at random a computer to be a block producer. So you cannot be a block producer if you do not stake Ether. And so the more you stake, the higher the possibility of you getting picked to be the block validator. Which brings me to my other advantage, which is it kind of leans towards centralization. Now I said second disadvantage, which is that it leads towards centralization. So I said that the first advantage is there is a risk of, or the third advantage I mentioned was that there's a risk of centralization is reduced in comparison to proof of work. But also at the same time, there can also be some kind of centralization due to the fact that you have to stake Ether. So if different people come together and they have money and they have the ability and they have the power to buy as much Ether as possible and stake Ether, then those guys, that team, those group of people have a higher probability of being able to be block producers more than everybody else. So it tends towards centralization, which will also be a disadvantage. And last disadvantage I'll say of proof of stake is that it limits liquidity, which means each time I'm staking Ether, I cannot use that Ether to do anything else because I'm staking it in order for me to be able to be the block producer and get rewarded for being a block producer. So I guess those are the disadvantages of proof of stake. So which is better, proof of work, proof of stake? But the Bitcoin maximalists that say proof of work is everything. The challenges that we have with Bitcoin, you can have a Lightning network will allow the network to be faster. People will argue and say you can increase the block size, blah blah blah. People will swear by proof of stake and say it's a better consensus algorithm. I guess when Ethereum goes to proof of stake, we can see whether it's better or whether it's not better. So which is a better consensus algorithm? I can't say for now which is better. I like proof of work. I think it's fascinating. I think it's great. I also think proof of stake is a wonderful, great concept as well. But I guess we'll see how this plays out. So if you have any other disadvantages or advantages you can list, please list them below. And yeah, that's all I have. So please hit the subscribe button so you can get weekly notifications whenever I release videos. So that's all I have. So until next time, my wish for you is that you learn more about cryptocurrencies, because cryptocurrencies are changing and will change the world. especially in the area of blockchain technology and in distributed ledgers as well. And I personally believe that those who get involved early will greatly impact the future. And if that is you, then let's go change the world.